segment of Cloud of Tomorrow. Well, emerging technologies within the cloud computing ecosystem and how the cloud is evolving from just being a place from setting up simple web apps and infrastructure to a destination to enable enterprise grade and business critical scenarios, including hybrid cloud, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and IoT. Well, right now, for our multi cloud AI and IoT panel discussion on Cloud of Tomorrow, influence of emerging technologies, wherein we're looking at talking about how has cloud computing evolved in the recent years and what are the trends shaping the cloud of tomorrow. What are the challenges in making cloud an effective platform for technologies such as AI and IoT? What do enterprise need to do to prepare for the next gen cloud adoption? What relevant business outcomes or performance parameters should customers expect when adopting the cloud of tomorrow? What is the value proposition of Kubernetes and cloud native technologies? What is the blueprint of successful application modernization? And what are the key delivery models for cloud for the future, given expectations of scalability in IT infrastructure and next gen computing? Well, for this, we're joined by our eminent panelists. First up, KRC Murthy, SVP and Head of RTB Information Technology, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Well, Mr. Murthy has a career graph spanning over 25 years in the IT sector and is acknowledged by his peers in the IT sector as a technology expert with specialization in the BFSI sector. We're also joined by Vijay Aggarwal as well, who's we're also joined by Vijay Aggarwal currently. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening at the World Cloud Show, wherein the technology leader with 13 plus years experience in working across multiple sectors, social networking, gaming, telecom, education, SaaS, travel, e-commerce, and finance. And he's the Chief Technology Officer at BharatPe. We're also joined by Prasad Rao, Director, IT Infrastructure, Unacademy. Well, Prasad is an IT infra management professional with 19 plus years of industry experience. He's currently and consistently delivered value to the business by building high performance teams with a solution first approach. We're also joined by Ravi Vaisre, the Head Cloud Transformation SAP Reckitt. Well, Ravi has worked with leading tech MNC and CPG giants and has 16 plus years of diverse experience in partnering with businesses for delivering IT-enabled transformation in supply chain, sales IT, machine first delivery, and SAP cloud migration. Well, with this also, we're going to be joined by our moderator, Boby M, the Chief Information Officer, TVS Supply Chain Solutions. Well, Boby has over 25 years of experience in digital transformation, including strategizing and architecting the digital roadmap, putting the pieces together towards the DX vision using the mobile, cloud, analytics, AI, ML, and data layers. Well, with this, I pass on the live rein to Boby and the entire panel. It's great to have you all at the World Cloud Show. With this, the stage and screen is all yours. Over to you.
Hey, thanks, Bhavana, for the introductions. And I would agree that we have a fairly high power panel with us, and hopefully the discussion is going to be intense, and there's going to be a lot of good points on the table. So, good afternoon, folks. Good morning, good evening, wherever that is relevant from people who are watching. And hi, KRC, Ravi, Prasad, Vijay. Good to have you guys. So let's quickly jump into the entire discussion, and just, cloud was something which was far away for us till about 2.5 years ago, and then with the pandemic hitting us the way it did, suddenly cloud itself became silver. It is not a cloud with a silver lining. The whole silver thing itself was the cloud. And personally speaking, I think cloud has made our life a lot easier. And I also have seen over the past 4 5 years how cloud has evolved into what it is today, from being just a space up somewhere where we put our servers to something that is powering applications, ensuring security, and giving scalability. So I think I'm quite excited to have this discussion and to see what the different points of view are. So let's quickly spin this, and I'll come to you, KRC, and I'd like to hear your points of view on the last few years, COVID, definitely pre-COVID, if you would so desire, and on how has the whole cloud computing scenario evolved And then if you were to put on your looking glass and see what comes in the future here. So why don't you get started with a bit of context and history on it?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Good afternoon, everyone, and glad to be here on this panel. Really happy to be there amongst all eminent panelists out here. Thank you, Trescon, for this opportunity to be here. Uh, so, Bobby and all, my view on cloud computing is I think it's been catching up wildfire, and the traction is actually coming up on cloud computing, especially in the last 2 years, which I have especially seen with various organizations moving into cloud is tremendous. I think somewhere we need to thank COVID also, while it has done a lot of disasters to the humanity. But from a technology point of view, I think tech guys are the ones who are actually, having the last laugh. So from that perspective, it's actually catching up quite fast. Today we connect everything digitally to cloud computing, and it is surely providing new ways of experience for applications, services, and various platforms. It's put to various use cases. Actually, it surely gives a hybrid experience to users. Is what my take is. My thought and my thoughts on the future of cloud is very bright. Some of the real benefits we all know about it, right? Just to reiterate, it really gives a lot of elasticity from a perspective of be it your storage, then especially putting it to the use cases of AI and IoT on the cloud computing is really increasing day on day. Modular software also will become a priority, which will reduce the cost of software placing components of the program on different storages. It will be economical from that point of view. Improvement in cloud services, could be some of the cases like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So from all this perspective, cloud computing, will be really powerful, for the organizations. My perspective, the future of cloud definitely looks bright, and will provide a lot of benefits to the host and the consumers.
Thanks, KRC. I guess that's a fair way to sum the whole scenario where today cloud is spun into multiple platforms where you either on one side you're looking at applications or there's platforms and then there is infrastructure purely. So it's all about that. And then quickly just adding to your to this discussion, both of you, Ravi and Vijay, why don't you take a quick second? Welcome to you, Ravi. So your take on this, the topics that we quickly discussed, cloud, where is it going? So why don't we just take a look at the future in terms of what do you think cloud doing for you personally in your industry space?
I think, see, number one, and the cloud is providing you the scalability, right? Much needed scalability that any organization wants to embark upon. So it's actually from the new age technologies like AI or ML, right? It's also democratizing, for a few of the companies who wants to really hop on this new journey, the new digital journey, right? So it is essentially, if I look at it, is essentially reducing the overall the time barrier to really start with the digital aspect of it. So in that sense, it is pretty useful, right? Number two, obviously, we all talk about pandemic. We all talk about how the work from home has accelerated the adoption of digital workplace, right? And that has enormously helped everyone to, number one, get on the bandwagon and get on the cloud journey, right? So in that sense, it has enormously helped. And from organization like the ones who want to further expand or further reach out to a larger customer base, from an IT perspective, cloud has become a mobile force, right, which can be utilized and which is being utilized. And if you just take a Gartner's prediction, right, so 90% of the business by end of 2022 will be using cloud in some manner. At the same time, even the software providers, right, who are trying to uh, sell their software from SaaS perspective, right, they are trying to convert most of their applications on SaaS, and probably by end of 21, it's going to be 30% odd softwares which are going to be on SaaS, right? While the infrastructure as a service and platform as a service is something which definitely the bigger organization like us are still considering. However, the SaaS is a way to go as well. Yeah, so there is a definite, I would say, uh, vibe in the air in terms of cloud.
Nice one, Ravi. Thanks. I like the way you summed it up, saying there's a good vibe in the air. So before I come to you, Vijay, I just want you to dwell on this from two different perspectives. Of course, one is to weigh in on what you think about cloud. Second, probably make it a little more meaty, which was when you talk about the entire scenario with respect to cloud nativity of applications and the fact that we also have multiple clouds working around, and then as people responsible, we need to have a string of pearl scenario where you have multiple clouds. So how do you want to work with all of this using containers, say, for example, a Kubernetes or whatever? And then what is that scenario? So we're just moving the discussion from what is cloud, what can cloud do to you, to what is cloud native, how can we make clouds work together? Vijay.
Sure. So that's a very wide range of topics in one go, but let me try to keep it brief and meaningful at the same time. So talking about what cloud is, to me, I think at the most fundamental level, cloud has enabled us to control hardware via APIs. I think that is the most fundamental and simplistic way I look at cloud. Like, you want to increase disk space, there's an API call for that. You want to provision a new machine, there's an API for that. You want to increase the network bandwidth, there's an API for that. And that has done the wonders that cloud has brought about, because now we can scale applications very easily. Now we can manage our applications very easily, and distributed applications by their very nature have very similar looking configurations replicated across so many machines, and that is where the power of APIs, the power of automation comes into the picture. Because if we have to do that manually, whether creating it the first time or maintaining it over time, it becomes a very repetitive operation. And since the expectation is that of like similar configuration being replicated, but if it is done manually, there is no real way to ensure that that is really the case. So errors do creep in, differences do creep in, and that causes a whole lot of issues in manageability of application. So it gives a lot of predictability, it gives a lot of scalability, it gives a lot of maintainability to our applications at the most fundamental level. That is what cloud has done. Of course, on top of that, people have then built a lot of things over so many years now. Now we are talking of like there are startups which are leveraging AI to optimize cloud configurations. Like, that is the kind of applications we can now talk about, because the whole thing is driven by software. It is driven by API calls. Right? We can monitor the usage. We can look at where we have excess capacity, where we are under provisioning. We can look at all that. All the data is available. It can be consumed by algorithms. Configurations can be changed by API calls. I think that is what cloud is essentially to me. Now coming to cloud native, that is a way of writing software. That is a way of building applications, which can then leverage the benefits of cloud that I just talked about. I'll take a very simple example. The database management systems of yesterday, which are very, very popular for the very right reasons. To talk about the MySQLs and the Oracles of the world. These are, for example, not cloud native software. Nothing wrong with that, but they were written at a time when cloud was not there. And they were not therefore written to leverage what cloud provides. One very essential component of cloud is that it is distributed by design. It is distributed at its core. And when I say that the relational databases that we have, the most popular of them, they are not distributed inherently speaking. They're written to vertically scale, not horizontally scale. Whereas when we talk of a lot of NoSQL databases that have come up recently, they are written with the fundamental premise that they will be distributed horizontally and not so much vertically. So they've got all those replication, sharding, all those things built in, which are still a little painful to do on top of the typical relational databases that we have. There's a lot of patchwork that has happened. There's a lot of I would say additional layer of application software development that has happened to make it relatively easier. But at its core, those softwares are not written for cloud, right? And therefore they are not cloud native. So that is the essential difference between the two. So using the right set of technologies that are meant for the cloud, that leverage the benefits of cloud, that makes it a lot more easier. I'm not saying that there is no benefit in deploying an Oracle or a MySQL on cloud. There is a lot of benefit in that. You still get the benefit of hardware level like provisioning improvements and other things. But if the software is also written to be working on cloud, to take advantage of cloud, then we can take things to a very different level. Then we get the benefits of a lot of automation which is baked into such software.
Thanks, Ravi. A lot of stuff around our ability to quickly manage infrastructure using APIs, so software controlling infrastructure. Who would have thought that they would come in our lifetimes, right? We were always allowing infrastructure to control software, and forever adding servers or hardware to make sure applications run faster. Now it's just flipping the entire discussion around. So to me, that's a very exciting space. In a way, it's Wild West for me because we are getting into areas where we don't know. We'll have to go figure out what's happening. But at the same time, it's quite an exciting journey. And Ravi, as I come to you, there are two clear aspects I would like to bring to the fore. One, of course, just picking up on the point where Vijay said on cloud native. What is cloud native? The fact that we have multiple cloud ecosystems around, how do they work? Because let's say you have an application today that does something, and then there's the AI layer that you want to bring in from another cloud provider, right? So how do you mix and match these applications? What would the options be rather than the challenges? Because today I know that we all have a lot of challenges around that, but could we just focus on what the possibilities are? Because to me they're quite endless, and then see what we do when we look at AI, IoT, ML on cloud and multi-cloud scenarios. Ravi.
Yeah, I think this is one of the area, right, which has gained a lot of traction in terms of IoT being on the cloud or AI being on the cloud, right? So I'll try to first put it in a way that let's try to understand how AI IoT is set up, right? For that matter, right? It has your three layers. First one is your perception layer, where you have a lot of your sensors, for example, your camera, your temperature sensor, or weight sensors. Then there's a network layer, and then finally you have an application layer. Now, the good part is with all the sensors, with all the capabilities that cloud provides, we could do wonders because you are not restricted to one on-premise data center. Rather, you can transact a lot of data over the cloud, and you can deploy your models, which can in turn provide you a lot of insight using your machine learning algorithms that you have set up. At the same time, there are various challenges that the current IoT system also poses. Just to give you an example, right? So, given the number of sensors are growing day by day, it might happen that over a period of time, you might lose a data trail itself, right? You might not know which data belongs to you and which data is put or where, right? So, data security and at times with the personal data, the data privacy also becomes one of the problem areas when it comes to the IoTs of the world, right? So how do we tackle it? That's a big question which comes in. The next problem which comes is with the current set of latency or the network bandwidth that you get. It's very difficult for us to be able to deploy a system like, let's say there is a vision intelligence platform that you want to deploy, right? And which captures and which is intended to capture the movement of the people within the ecosystem, as well as it is planning to capture the emotions of a person. Based on that, it is planning to give you a feedback on which brand to select and which not. Now, given the sheer amount of data that it is generating to a level of few GBs, right, per hour, and that data needs to transfer back onto the cloud and need to process and then need to give you those decision-making insights on the go. It's currently still a challenge, right? Probably with the 5G, we might see those challenges might come down. But yeah, there are challenges where we normally tend to use the edge devices, right? Where the power of I would say computation lies within the edge device itself, right? So, however, even with this given constraint, as I said, right, getting the barrier crossed and getting onto this AI and ML journey, it becomes very easy when it comes to cloud, given the kind of framework that either Azure or Google Cloud or AWS has to offer.
Thanks, Ravi. A very, very key point, which I don't think a lot of people have started thinking about, is the fact that with the advent of sensors coming in and probably proliferation of sensors around, we tend to forget about the fact that one, of course, there are so many of them all around the place, we don't even know what they're doing. The second thing is, how do you come back to really identify, is this the right data? Is your data secure? Is it being transferred right? So on and so forth. So before we move to the next point, I think this is quite important, that I had a discussion probably a few months ago during the early days of COVID with a startup from California, where they spoke about a movement to create a protocol for spaceship. So, like HTTP, which is text transfer protocol, we are in the stages of evolving a global protocol which tackles spatial data, spatial design, spatial equipment, and the concept around that is that every device which gives you spatial or information at the edge will have a globally recognizable ID, like an IP address, which is unique. So that's a technology which is evolving, and hopefully one of these days, Ravi, just picking up your point and extending it, we could see that a protocol sitting on top of the communication layers that we have, helping us to orchestrate, manage, and maintain these devices across the globe, and making sure that wherever data comes from, the data that you get comes with the right secure packets and so on and so forth. Very important point, and quite interesting also to see where that essentially would go to. Thanks, Ravi, for that nice perspective. Now, with all of this, so you have cloud, you have many devices, you have the whole. So looking at it from a business perspective, I'll come to you, KRC, for on this topic. Is now actually, you know, we techies get completely excited with all this discussion. For us, this is like, yes, man, the future is here. But what do really businesses get out of this? How do you sell this to someone in the boardroom?
Yeah, Bobby, that's a good question. Sometimes it becomes a catch-22 situation. It's again, the mindset which is slowly changing now, right? Especially again, I come back to the COVID times. The COVID has actually forced down the throats of a lot of organizations and the boardrooms, where today the CXOs are part of the boardrooms, whether you like it or not. They are part of it now. They are forcefully made a part of it. See, from an organization perspective, if you take my organization, which is Kotak Mahindra Bank, right? It's a top-down approach, and it has always been a top-down stride that the technology has to be at the forefront. Digital is the first step which we always take. Luckily, so for us, it's not much of an issue of convincing the boardroom members to go for new technologies. But in general, if we talk about it, Bobby, yes, it is definitely going to be a little challenge for the tech people to convince the management that what are the benefits we get vis-a-vis what we are spending off for these technologies. Like, it's running, chal raha hai, right? Main abhi kyun change karu? Why should I? What's my ROI, right? But the benefits what cloud provides on a longer run, I think it's tremendous, right? Sooner or later, the organizations which move to these technologies will definitely know what the value add it provides. Like, from a technology perspective, if you see, I think service and system availability, metrics. There are some metrics which every organization need to look for what the technology is providing to their internal users, external customers, etc. Some of the metrics which I feel are very important for running is like service and system availability, reliability of what services you are running, right? The response times. Today's world, has no patience. If you are offering something on a digital platform, there is no patience at all. It's a millennial world. Let's accept it whether you like it or not. The moment your application or anything starts circling, I just move on to some other service provider. Patience levels have really gone down. I always keep telling, if you want to implement the best technologies, find out what's happening, talk to your kids. They are the ones who will tell you what is that they are looking for. They are the ones actual users for you. Keep talking to them, find out what's there. A lot of times I get a feedback of my own application that why don't you have this particular feature in your application? Why do I need to move to some other application? That's how, for example, our Kotak 811 app, when you download, everything you get there, right from doing the banking to shopping groceries to booking air tickets to booking your rail tickets, everything, it's a one-stop shop. So when you're providing these kind of services, when you're bundling all these things, the kind of backend infrastructure also needs to be, infrastructure and applications and the response times. So why I'm coming to all this is where your entire backend needs to work seamlessly. And cloud is something which really offers you all these services in a seamless manner. We spoke about containerization, right? And microservices. All these are some things which cloud provides. The capacity, what I mean is the size of the workload compared to the available infrastructure. Scalability, right? The ability to scale up, how quickly you are able to scale up to the requirements of the business. Today the businesses are not able to wait for weeks together. And I need the service. I'm launching a product. Be there. That's it. Provide your service. There's no second thought about it. Gone are the days when we used to say, hardware will take 6 to 8 weeks to come. Then I will take 4 weeks to install it. Then we will do a testing. And by the time, we actually set up, the business is dead. Someone else is already sitting on the street taking your entire pie. Today, we don't have that luxury, right? So reduce latency is something which again it provides. If you implement the technologies properly, the cost per customer also will come down if you actually frame it right. Many a times people think cloud is very expensive. Why should we go there? But weigh your options well. Launch your product and design it in such a way that it actually provides you benefits. I think from my perspective, it gives you tremendous benefits.
Thanks, Ravi. I guess the customer journey in a cloud world is probably the key thing, probably the only thing in my opinion, right? And so we do still keep talking about what is the investment a customer has to make when using an app, just so that that experience is seamless. Likewise, how does that kind of even out from the lifetime value that an organization get from a customer, and so how does cloud come in and try to make these things work together? Interesting point, I guess, and very pertinent, because going forward with what Gartner said, as we discussed some time ago, if more than 90% of applications are going to be sitting on cloud and infrastructure is going to be there, and I guess this is the way to go for us. So, getting the basics in place and nuts and bolts in place, I think we'll have a bit of a round robin where all of us will go around and try to do this. How exactly should we go about cloud modernization? What should essentially, if you were to draw out a blueprint, an ideal blueprint for each of you, how does that work? We'll start with you, Vijay. We go to you, Ravi, and then KRC. You could sum the whole discussion up. So why don't we get started with you, Vijay?
Yeah. So, so the whole cloud modernization or application modernization domain is very, very interesting in the sense that it offers a lot of possibilities for technologists, for business people. More than that, I would say one of the most fundamental advantage which we look at When we talk of deploying cloud, we talk of deploying latest technologies, is how it can help us innovate faster and how it can help us scale applications in a very short span of time. So let's say we build a new application, like will we be able to deploy it in 1 month, in 1 week, 1 day? What is the time frame we're looking at? And let's say it goes viral. Will we be able to scale again, whether in a matter of minutes or in a matter of hours? I think these are the two most important metrics we look at. Cost is there, but I would say it's a bit of a mixed bag. I've seen a lot of people having expectation of drastic cost cutting when they move to cloud, and then whether they did not do it right, or like they did not wait for enough amount of time, they got disappointed by that, and they somehow built a negative opinion about cloud. So in my view, when somebody is moving to cloud from an on-premise setup, I do not generally suggest looking at cost as the primary metric. I suggest looking at innovation and speed as the primary metric. Because it does take a lot of effort to get used to the new paradigm initially. It is very, very different from how things are done on premise. Like the whole software needs to be changed at times to take maximum advantage of cloud, which is where the whole cloud native thing comes into the picture. Like you look at Kubernetes, it does provide a lot of value, but it has its own learning curve. Like there are lots of things that need to be learned for the technologists to take advantage of that setup. So it does involve a steep transition, steep learning curve, which can be flattened out, but then that will also like make the transition longer. So we need to have the right mindset when moving to cloud, and we need to have the right frame of mind. So it helps a lot. Like if we talk to people who've done that, like, and now a lot of people have like experimented a lot with different cloud technologies, with different cloud providers. So there's a wealth of knowledge out there. Like it is still a wild west, but not so much of a wild west now. Lots of new things coming up, but there's a lot of like established knowledge base out there which we can tap into, and we should tap into, because it at the end of the day does involve a significant amount of like commitment of time, cost, and effort. So it is not a cheap experiment to run, like to make the migration, to make the transition. So it does merit like a deeper thought, knowledge gathering, and building the right strategy. That is important. Once people are on cloud, even there we need to keep modernizing, because like one misconception people have is that, oh, I'm on cloud, then all my things are good. But within cloud also there are so many new things that keep coming up, and whether we're taking advantage of them or not, that also is a very important question. The cloud that was there, I would say 5 years back, I'm not even talking about 10 years back, I'm talking of like 5 years back, was very, very different from what cloud is today. Like the kind of things that cloud offers today. In very simple terms, cloud started as providing a layer of hardware abstraction. So the earliest things that cloud had to offer was compute, storage, networking. Like those were the three keywords that cloud offers these, and these are flexible, these are configurable, like again through API calls, like I said earlier. But over time, cloud has also evolved to provide platforms and now applications and even solutions. So platforms are like you get managed databases, right? That is a sort of platform. Applications are like, I mean, you get ready to use machine learning algorithms, machine learning, like accordingly configured hardware, and a lot of things baked into that. So you don't really have to have a lot of experience of deploying and setting up a machine learning application to make use of that. And solutions are like to the extent of like you get a ready-made chatbot which you can customize as to your needs. So all these different levels of abstraction cloud provides now. There are innovations at all these different layers. Like at hardware layer, there are innovations around multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. So you can be partly on-prem, partly on cloud, or you can be partly on one cloud and partly on another cloud with seamless transition. I mean, not 100% seamless, but quite easier transition these days compared to what the facilities were there 5 years back. At the application level, you can have like your application running at one location with one cloud provider, and a hot backup running at a different location with a different cloud provider, or a disaster recovery backup, whatever you may want to set up. All these and all these things being completely automated, so there is very little manual effort required if you've done the right way. So there are a lot of facilities that keep coming up on a daily basis that we need to keep tapping into.
Interesting, Vijay. Ravi, your perspective, he says it's more about innovation. Don't look at really cost, and then of course with cloud, it is like
I think
endless possibilities.
yeah, anything is possible, right, on the cloud. So that's how it is. I think fundamentally, it is very important to understand what are the options exist for modernization, right? So you have an option to let's say modernize your infrastructure only, right? For example, you want to put it on a greater infrastructure with the latest OS, right? So that's one aspect of modernization where you want to lift shift the application onto the cloud, right? And that itself gives a lot of value. At the same time, there is an option exists where you want to probably optimize the application so that it's suitable on the cloud in terms of in making it more scalable, making it more secure and reliable, right? So that is another advantage the modernization provides. Right? If there is a strategic application that you have, which you know that for your business is very critical, and probably it is written on a pretty old code, and you want to really work on the application and get that modernized. So the app modernization itself, one of the options which is available onto the cloud, right? Now, within the cloud, you have your various capabilities like your containerization, right? Your Docker services, which you could use in order to further modernize your application, make sure it's compatible with all the platform where you want to deploy, any of the cloud where you want to deploy, and it gives you that mobility more or less, right? Or you want to think about the function apps, probably in Azure, that's how they call it, right? Which detects an event and does the actions based on those events, right? So those small things, they are existing, and as Vijay rightly talked about, the chatbots or AI ML capabilities, which you can bind it if you are going on the SaaS. There are very few SaaS providers which I at least remember now exist, which don't term them as I would say the modern AI capable SaaS providers, right? So there are things which are being done from the software provider itself in terms of modernizing. There are things which you could do as an organization in terms of modernizing either your infrastructure or making it cloud optimized or app modernization. So there are various options exist, but you need to first understand what is the motive behind the modernization that you want to take up. Whether you want to operate that application out of cloud because your data center is expiring, if that becomes a motive to migrate onto the cloud, or you want to leverage the cloud capabilities and means you want to move the application onto the cloud. So understand those motives first, and then accordingly you take your decision. That's
Nice stuff, Ravi. Be sure what you want to do. Be clear where you want to go. Focus on innovation, not on cost. And then probably the cloud journey becomes interesting because possibilities are endless. Uh, uh, KRC, how do you want to sum this entire thing up to really see, what would those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps be if someone's trying to get ready for cloud?
So I think Vijay and Ravi both summed it up well. So very few comments I have on this, but few things I would say is, Bobby, that organizations should weigh what their priorities are, right? Just don't jump the guns. Just someone is doing a cloud migration, I also need to be there. Understand whether it suits you or not, then take a step ahead, right? Look at the low hanging fruits first. I would say suggest put your non-critical, non-client facing data applications into cloud first. Put your internal applications which are not critical. look at it, how it works, whether it suits you or not, then slowly migrate into cloud. That's what, start small and grow big approach should be there for organizations who really want to explore it. Choose a right partner. That's very important, right? Weigh your options very well, do your entire homework well, and then get into the cloud journey, right? It can, as Vijay and Ravi mentioned, you also summed it up, Bobby, saying that it has got endless opportunities. It can give you, it can do wonders. At the same time, if you don't manage it well, it can prove to be the most disastrous thing for the organizations, and it can wipe out your organization just in a whiffy over a day. We are always told, it takes decades to build an organizations and the trust, right? And it just takes just a moment to bring it down, right? So don't be a reason for that, because organizations have a lot of trust on you, and as CXOs and the IT fraternity, so keep the trust on. Check what is actually needed, and design the entire movement and migration to cloud in a very constructive manner. Make it a win-win situation for the organizations and for yourself, and stand out as a case study for the entire fraternity. That's what my last few words would be.
Wonderful. To treat cloud like it's a very strong part of your life. Be very clear who you choose as your partner. Keep working on the entire relationship with cloud and make sure that it's there for keeps. While you say that, I and also hear all of us saying that this is not just going to be a bed of roses. There are pitfalls. So be clear what you want to do and ensure that we protect ourselves where required by being cautious rather than go gunslinging. If I just were to take that whole wild west analogy ahead, and then of course, well, it's out there for keeps. I guess whatever Gartner said is the truth. Applications are getting deployed faster and faster. Enterprises are transforming themselves in no time at all, and I guess it's a wonderful world that we would see if it isn't. Thank you, gentlemen, for an amazing discussion, and I guess I thank Trescon also for bringing this together. Over to you, Bhavna, and thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible panel discussion that was. Firstly, thank you to all our panelists on talking on the multi-cloud AI and IoT panel discussion, which was on Cloud of Tomorrow, Influence of Emerging Technologies.